Hey everyone, it's Charlene. I'm super excited today. I'm giving you a sneak peek of the Sunkissed summer release from Honeybee Stamps. It's coming out on June 7th. We're going to be using the Lovely Layers beach houses. As you can see, I have cut my packaging apart. That's just so I can fit it into my storage bag. But you have palm trees, houses, lots of little bits and bobs there to create a gorgeous card. I've got 3 different color schemes. I've got a teal and then kind of a peachy color as well as a pink color. And I'm going to cut these from the main house pieces. So I have A1 and A2 and then B2 and B4 and C1 and C2. So I'll go ahead and cut these out. And you can see they layer up and they're going to create those fun little details on the houses. Once I have those ready, I'm going to cut out all of the remaining pieces in white cardstock. Now, I'm doing this because I want to be able to use my alcohol markers to pick exactly what kind of detail color I want to use. First, I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 pink pieces together, and then I can kind of decide as I go. Now, if you ever have too much glue on your die cut, you can tap it off onto a tissue like I'm doing there. And then I'm just going to line it up, and now I won't have any glue squishing out on those sides. So for my window, I'm going to use B2.0. This is a very, very light blue, but it looks really nice as glass. But because it is so light, I do like to run it over several times. Now I can glue the glass piece onto the outer window piece, and I do that just by setting the window right on top of the glass piece so it's peeking out there. Next, I'll come in here and color the door frame with some 2.4, R2.4. It's this nice raspberry color, and it's going to work really well with those pinks that I picked out for the house. It'll give it a nice dark frame going around the door. Now I can glue that frame to the door, and you see those 2 little notches at the top. They line up with the 2 little notches that are on the door. So Honeybee Stamps does a really great job with their layering dies. They just make them super easy to layer up. And there is a layering guide. It's available on the Honeybee Stamps website with the product once it releases. So I went around the edges with the 2.4 just to make sure I didn't have any white showing. And then I'm also going to color in the porch railing as well as the piece that is the roof line. So I thought this would work really well and give an overall cohesive look to our cute little pink house. So now I'm going to glue that roof line on. I'm going to glue my door on. It's just going to sit in the bottom center here. And then I can glue my railing right over the top of the door. And I waited to do the window until last because I wanted to evenly space it between that roof line as well as the door. So whenever you're working with multiple pieces, always a good idea to do each side piece and then do the center piece. So there's our finished pink house. Super, super cute. Now for our adorable teal house here, I'm going to come in with some BG 2.7 and I'm going to color the roof line for this house as well. I'm going to do that for all the houses so that way there's a cohesive look for all of them. I'm going to color the window frame as well, just going along here. And you can see I'm working on my glass mat. It's really easy to clean off any alcohol inks from your glass mat. You just use a little bit of rubbing alcohol and they come right off. So I'm going around the door frame here. You don't have to color in the center because that'll be colored by or covered by the door. Now I can color in my window again with that B 2.0 color. Again, just a great color for glass. So now I can glue my detail piece to the house here. So you're going to see it'll create those lovely stripes in the center. And when I'm working with these kind of fine little pieces like this, I always like to use my reverse tweezers. It makes the process a lot easier. So I've glued that on now. Again, I can do the roof line, and then I can come in and add my door and my window. Now you can see down there at the bottom, I haven't done anything with the steps as of yet, and that's because I wasn't sure which of those steps I wanted to be the darker teal color. I knew I wanted one of them to be white and one of them to be the dark teal, and this is another reason why it is so handy to cut out your detail pieces in white and then color them with alcohol markers. It gives you a lot of freedom to design as you go, and you don't have to plan everything in advance. So I went around the edges there of the window so that way there wasn't any white showing, and you can see on the detail piece there is a square that lines up perfectly with the window, and then there is a rectangle that's going to line up perfectly with the door frame. So I'm going to glue the door onto the door frame, and it just sits right in the middle towards the bottom, so you get that nice framing all the way around, and then glue that to the rectangle I was just talking about. So now I can decide what to do with the steps, and I decided I wanted the darker step to be at the bottom. I felt like that balanced out the roof railing or the roof edging there at the top to have it dark teal, and then to also have the bottom step dark teal. Hopefully that makes sense. So now that I have that all ready, I can go ahead and glue the whole piece to my little house to finish this house off. It's so super cute. I just love these little tiny detailed pieces like this, and they're pretty easy to put together. So now we can move on to our beautiful peachy colored house. I think these colors are so gorgeous. They just remind me of something you would see on the beach, maybe in the Bahamas or something like that. I love this color scheme. I think it works really well with these beach houses. But you could certainly do some more like vibrant, bold colors, and those would look really nice as well. You're going to see as we get farther into the video here, I am going to be using a cover plate and stencil to create my background, and that's going to have a lot of color going on it as well. So I didn't want my colors to be overwhelming. So that's why I went with kind of these fun, bright colors, but they're not like big and bold colors. Hopefully that makes sense. It does to me in my head at least. So I'm going to come in here now. I'm using my wax pickup tool, which is just great for these tiny little pieces. You can see that I use some R2.0, which is kind of a grapefruit color for the little flag, as well as the top of the chimney and the roof line. And then I'm going to bring in that same color once again for the door frame so that it ties everything together. Now on this one, I colored the whole door frame. You don't have to. You could just go around the edges. And now I'm going to glue my door directly on there. Again, when you glue the doors on there, you just want to make sure that they're in the middle, but also all the way down at the bottom. So that way you have the outline of the door frame going all the way around on the left top and right sides. Now I can glue this right to the little rectangle that's provided for me, and I'm going to go ahead and color the bottom piece that goes along the little house. I guess this would be the little shim. No, it's not called a shim. What is that called? I can't think of it today. But I'll glue that on there, and then our little ladder is going to go in the center, and I decided I wanted the stilts that the house is on. I wanted those to be that same 2.0 color, and I went over them twice, and I wanted them to be really saturated. So now my white ladder that's going in the center is really going to stand out from those stilts, and it's not going to just be kind of a sea of white down there at the bottom. So I've got some glue along the top of the ladder, and that glue's just right below the door. What a fun little place to stay. This would be amazing to stay in on the beach, as long as there's air conditioning, right? So there's lots of other little things in the set that you can add to these houses. There's a life preserver, some fish, an anchor, a little sign. At this point, I wasn't sure if I wanted to use those. Spoiler alert, I end up not using them because my background is really pretty and has a lot going on. Oh, and there's also these two really cute palm trees that have layers to them, which I think would look really cute if you were doing the houses just by themselves on a card. You could add those cute little palm trees on there. So here is the cover plate die I was talking about. This is the Palm Beach cover plate. Absolutely beautiful. It's going to create some water and sand and some palm trees and look just gorgeous embossed into the background. And then there are these layering stencils that go perfectly with it. So the layering stencils, you can just lay them right over the top and it's going to mask the areas that you don't want to color, but leave openings for the areas you do want to color. So this stencil here is going to color the water as well as the sky. So I'm going to add some tape right on the back of the stencil and put this on my piece of white cardstock. I already know it's going to line up perfectly because of that cover plate die that we used to cut out. I'll start with some light blue. I'm going to color my sky with this. I'm not going to put very much down. I want a very pretty light blue sky. So I'm bringing it in and now I can use a darker blue to come in and color my water. I'm starting with less ink and I can always add more, but there you see that beautiful difference between those two blues. I think works really well. So now I can remove this first stencil and move on to the next one. The next piece is going to color in the clouds and the beach. And I'm actually going to leave my clouds completely white. So I won't do any coloring there, but it's kind of fun if you wanted a stormy sky. You could make gray clouds. You get a lot of versatility with this. So sandy beaches kind of go all the way from a very pale tan to a orangish color. I want mine just to be a little bit tan, so I'm bringing in that dark tan color there, but I'm just barely adding any ink onto my cardstock. Very, very little bit. And I'm just lightly brushing it on there until I get the amount of ink that I want on there. It doesn't take very long at all. I think I'm getting pretty happy here. Yep, that's gonna do it. And then I can remove the stencil. For the next stencil, I'm gonna bring in two different shades of green. Now this is kind of a yellowish green, and I'm gonna color in all of the greenery here with it. I've got this little kind of leafy patch there, as well as the palm leaves for the three palm trees. And now I'm going to bring in my slightly darker green and I'm just going to go along the base here of everything to add a little bit of depth and dimension to those palm trees and to the greenery there at the bottom. Once I'm happy with that, I can take this stencil off and bring in the next one. And this is going to color the main kind of bush, I guess, there. And so this is more of a true green color, and I'm going to bring it in a little bit heavier on the bottoms and the sides, again just to add that little bit of depth so that it looks like it is in front of the other bush that's there on the left. And for my next stencil, I'm going to use kind of a light teal for these two side bushes. I know there aren't really any bushes that are this color, at least not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I thought it would make a nice juxtaposition from those kind of more true greens in the center to this more tealy green on the sides. But I'm going to go really, really light-handed with this teal. I don't want it to kind of overpower everything else that's going on. So I'll take this off, bring in the next stencil, and this one is going to do the palm tree trunks as well as the little spots that are flowers or berries on those two side bushes, and it's going to do the rocks down here at the bottom. I'm bringing in a nice dark brown to do those palm tree bases because I really want them to be nice and dark and bold kind of on the background and really stand out. And then for my rocks, I'm bringing in a really nice dark gray. Now I noticed at this point that my leaves on my palm tree all the way on the left, that I didn't quite get my stencil lined up. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to bring that other stencil back in real quick here and go back over it. So once I'm happy, I can now go back to the other stencil, and I'm actually going to bring in some Distress Oxide here in Picked Raspberry. Now this is a hybrid ink, so it does have pigment ink in it, so it's going to sit on top of the paper and do a better job of showing up. If I came in just with a pink dye ink, I wouldn't see these little berries or flowers quite as well. I am going to bring in a little piece of white cardstock here just so I can mask off the areas. And now I have my pretty berries on there all ready to go. You can see all of that gorgeous embossed detail. Looks so good. I'm going to trim about 1/8 of an inch off all the way around the edge of this, so that way I get a nice thin white border on my card when I'm finished. Now you could pop this up with foam tape, but I'm just adding some liquid glue and gluing this right to my card base. This is an A2 size card, by the way. It's 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And now I can come in and add my houses, but I decided I do want these to have some dimension. Again, you could use foam tape, but I went ahead off camera and cut out 3 additional pieces in white scrap cardstock that I had of each of the main house pieces. So I can layer these up quickly. I just hold my bottom piece with my tweezers, add glue, put the next piece on, add glue, and then put the next piece on, add glue. You guys get the idea here on this, but I do like to kind of pinch around the edges as I'm going, so that way I can make sure when I'm done it's all gonna line up really well, even if the glue kind of dries a little bit in between those layers. So I'm going to repeat the process for the other 2 houses, and then I can go ahead and glue all of these houses down onto the card front. Now I am going to glue them so that they are sitting right along the sand. I think that looks really pretty here. And again, because I have 3 pieces here, I am going to glue down the pieces on the right hand side and the left hand side before I glue down the middle piece. And that's again going to make sure that everything is nice and centered and there's even spacing between everything. And you can see how adding those extra layers of cardstock now have given this card some nice dimension, and it helps those houses kind of stand apart from that very pretty but also busy beachy background that we have going on. Now I did decide at this point that I wanted to go ahead and darken up those palm leaves a little bit, so I brought in one of my detail brushes and brought in more of that true green, and I'm just going to put a little bit on my brush and work it around on the palm leaves until I'm happy with the colors. So don't ever be afraid to go back and add little touches here and there on your cards, even if you've already colored them. But you also don't have to be as particular as me. So now here is the fun part. I decided to bring in some of these Old Glory pearl stickers and put some coconuts onto my palm trees. How cute is that? Next here I have the Rest and Relaxation stamps and coordinating dies, and I'm going to use the one that says Beach Please for my sentiment. I think that's going to look really nice. I'm going to stamp it out here in some intense black ink, and I'm just going to be careful while I'm stamping because this is a very fine lined sentiment set. So you don't want to push too hard on your stamps because that can kind of smush those lines out and you lose some of the crispness of your sentiment. I went ahead and die cut it out, and I did die cut 2 extras so that way I could layer those up and give them a little dimension. And now I'm tucking it in right here under my houses. I decided to bring in some white gel pen and just color in the little embossed details of the seagulls to help them stand out a little bit better against the sky. And that is going to finish off this fun beachy themed card. All right, guys, I hope you picked up some tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue to bring you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.